rough theatre. I would say, I suppose, it's conventions. No, pantomime is a good example of rough theatre or amateur theatre.
What George did there was very clever, because the rough theatre is about confusion. And that's exactly what she was doing for us, wasn't it?
Indeed.
Yeah? Evoking dirt, the mess, the confusion, the unpredictability, the instability of real life. Rough theatre, Brooke contends, exists most effectively in theatre spaces outside of what might be described as traditional. Rough theatre is, in short, theatre of the people, by the people, for the people. Yeah? So when you go into Bath and you do your Shakespeare outside the spa or the pump rooms or wherever it is, you're engaging in rough theatre. It's not in a traditional space, and you're doing it for the people. And if they don't watch, they don't watch. And what's the fourth one then, the immediate theatre? Anyone can hasten a guess?
Is it making theatre in the present, contemporary?
Yes. It's combining elements of rough theatre and holy theatre, which doesn't say it's bad, rough theatre and holy theatre to make theatre immediate, to make theatre present. That's the key point. That's what Peter Brook was doing, is doing, all those years, and you can watch as many clips as you want. Essentially what he wanted to do was make, for you, theatre immediate and present and relatable. And as I said, Shakespeare for him was a perfect vehicle. Firstly, because it gave him something to break down. My seminar group today spent a bit of time doing Shakespeare to Lady Gaga. Having a little disco. Yeah, then Mumford & Sons came in, yeah, doing Shakespeare to kind of music. Making theatre immediate for you, stripping away the tradition, the conventions, which will bog you down, hold you back. And we know that. We know that because we've been at school, and we know that because we've been at college, and we know, not all of you, but some of you, as soon as someone gives you Shakespeare at about the age of 19, you go, take it away please. I don't want it, because the pressure is huge. Where's Callum? Yeah? Callum earlier said he was felt a bit sick and nervous after doing his monologue because the pressure of it felt enormous. Yeah? I'm picking on you, but that's okay because that's what we're here to do. The pressure of Shakespeare is enormous, but we're taking that away and we're making it immediate and we're making it present in the room. And that's all he does. It's not complicated, it's not confusing. Robert Wilson, however, sometimes can be slightly complicated or confusing.
Okay, so as Rebecca said, I directed and kind of adapted a production of Robert Wilson's The Black Rider about 18 months, almost 2 years ago now. So what I have is a lecture piece I wrote to go alongside the production I did, and I'm going to share with you with Latch tonight. Okay, so The Black Rider, The Casting of the Magic Bullets, is a German expressionist operetta devised collaboratively between postmodern theatre pioneer Robert Wilson, folk rock cult hero Tom Waits, and beat novelist William S. Burroughs. So when looking at Robert Wilson, you must first go back to Artaud. Hopefully most of you remember the lecture back in February. Just to remind you, it's early 20th century French practitioner Antonin Artaud's artistic vision of a new theatrical landscape designed to implement a violent, austere physical honesty that would shatter false reality, which, as he said, lies like a shroud over our perceptions. So that's really, really what resonated with Wilson. That idea of shattering the illusion of theatre, creating something real, creating something immediate. So The Black Rider was conceived in 1988 when Robert Wilson approached Waits regarding the idea of working together, as they both mutually appreciated the other's artistic integrity. Basic plot is as follows. Wilhelm falls in love with a huntsman's daughter. In order for them to marry, he must prove his worth as a shooter. However, he's an appalling shot, and his chances of marrying her worsen, until he's discovered by Pegleg, the devil, who offers him 60 bullets, which will always hit their mark. However, he becomes addicted to the hunt, and uses up all of the bullets before the wedding day. He returns to the crossroads where the devil appears with 7 more bullets. However, this time they come with a warning. 6 of the bullets are as before and will always hit the mark, but 1 is controlled by Pegleg and will end up wherever he chooses. On Wilhelm's wedding day, his final task is to impress his soon-to-be father-in-law, and so he hits a wooden bird off of a branch. However, as you may have guessed, Pegleg plants it straight in the head of the beautiful bride instead. Unable to accept the reality or handle the grief, Wilhelm goes mad and is committed to an insane asylum where he's eternally plagued by his actions.
It's a cheery little number.
Absolutely. So, yeah, when I first started directing it, I was really passionate about getting in touch with someone who'd been involved with the project when it kind of first happened. Now, obviously Robert Wilson's quite a hard man to get hold of, as are Tom Waits, and I believe William S. Burroughs would be incredibly hard to get hold of. But so I got in touch with a guy called Nigel Richards, who was the lead actor in the 2004 world tour of it, and had a bit of a dialogue with him. And basically he explains it as a man who shot his wife is sent to purgatory, whereas hell is that he must relive the shooting every day. So the devil summons up other creatures from hell to be his supporting characters. The man should have no knowledge of this. All these creatures have physical and vocal tics because they're not used to speaking in English. This is how I found sense in this amazing, extraordinary world. So when I directed the piece, I chose to look at this show specifically in relation to its interdisciplinary collaborative creation. What attracted me most to The Black Rider, beyond its expressionistic and bizarre style, was the team behind it. As someone myself, I'm equally interested in acting, directing, writing, music and design. I find combining influences from completely different areas of creative art something that seems so hard to perfect, yet when done correctly creates an unparalleled multisensory experience. The idea of creating performative art that is designed to transcend specific disciplines was first theorised by German aesthetic philosopher Karl Trandorf in 1827. Gesamtkunstwerk, meaning universal artwork, is used to describe a work of art that tries to encompass all art forms within it, thereby surpassing any classification, i.e. painting, music or drama. The term was further popularised by 19th century composer Richard Wagner to describe his perfect vision of the future of opera and music in general. Wagner believed that the Greeks perfected the idea of a complete artistic synthesis, and that Euripides had destroyed it by compartmentalising various different art forms. Wagner, much like Artaud, despised the unadventurous convention that popular theatre of their respective times had created. Wagner spoke of this theatrical disillusionment in his essay Art and Revolution. He says, "Thus we can by no means recognise in our theatrical art the genuine drama, that one indivisible supreme creation of the mind of man. Our theatre merely offers the convenient locale for the tempting exhibition of the heterogeneous wares of art manufacture. How incapable is our stage to gather up each branch of art in its highest and most perfect expression." As you can see, it seems Wagner's ideals have never been more prominent than within experimental performative collaboration, such as this show. What I find interesting is that unlike the commercial musical collaboration you're likely to see examples of in the West End and Broadway, The Black Rider emits a sense of ongoing change, where the journey itself is just as important as the finished product. For example, not only was The Black Rider's entire run at the Barbican in London sold out, but so were the 3-hour-long workshops Wilson ran alongside it, discussing the mechanics and artistry that went into the creation of the show. The Black Rider has always been an eternal work in progress, organically growing and changing with each production, so the collaboration remains alive and consistently evolving. The 3 men responsible for The Black Rider have always found creative comfort in working with others. Before The Black Rider, Robert Wilson had previously collaborated with artist Bert Hoffman on several shows between 1969 and 1974. Wilson has also built up a long-standing relationship with avant-garde composer Philip Glass, collaborating together for Einstein on the Beach, widely considered to be Wilson's masterpiece. Burroughs is most famous for his non-linear novel Naked Lunch, in which drug abuse and corporate greed are explored through a series of almost nonsensical vignettes. Coming out of the beat poet generation of the late 60s, Burroughs was also used to collaboration, having worked closely on poetry with fellow beatniks Jack Kerouac and Allen Ginsberg. He also famously collaborated with Kurt Cobain on the 1992 album The Priest They Call Him. Waits had long been collaborating with other musicians and lyricists since his signing to Asylum Records in 1971, when he worked with people like Frank Zappa and Bonnie Raitt, as well as building up strong cinematic collaborations, both as a composer and an actor, with noted film directors Francis Ford Coppola and Jim Jarmusch. The seeds of collaboration were planted firmly early on in the gestation of the show. The plot is really a pastiche of many early German folk tales and proverbs, most notably the legend of Dr. Faustus and Der Freischütz, meaning the free shooter. The intertextual construction of the show grew out of all three creators contributing research related to German folklore, and Burroughs tying it all together into as coherent a plot as possible. Waits explains. Burroughs found some of the branches of the story and let them grow into more metaphorical things in everyday lives that, in fact, are deals with the devil we've made ourselves. It is impossible to understand the message behind The Black Rider without looking at William Burroughs' troubled personal history. In a story that seems far too dramatic to be historical fact, it is clear why Burroughs creates much of his work, and this is never more prevalent than in The Black Rider. In 1946, Burroughs married a rebellious socialite named Joan Vollmer. They travelled America together, both looking for the heart and soul of the country in a time of civil unrest. Their journey took them to Mexico City, where after a few drinks they decided to reenact the William Tell legend, where the eponymous Swiss marksman shoots an apple off a young boy's head. Burroughs placed a water tumbler on Vollmer's head, but tragically missed and shot her point blank in the face with a handgun. Burroughs was tried for culpable homicide, but mysteriously never served any jail time, being issued with just a 2-year suspended sentence. This tragic and painfully avoidable moment in Burroughs' life has informed almost every literary endeavour he has since undertaken. Burroughs said in an introduction to his 1953 novel Queer, "I am forced to the appalling conclusion that I would never have become a writer but for Joan's death. So the death of Joan brought me into contact with the invader, the ugly spirit, and manoeuvred me into a lifelong struggle in which I had no choice except to write my way out."